So how do you get out of the dreaded commodity trap? Stick around, we'll talk about it. Well, hey, Jeff Shore here, back with you on another episode of Ask Jeff. Got a great question that came in. Let me just read it to you. It says, what do you do when you have a very similar product and a very similar price? It seems that my customers are struggling. And yes, it would stand to reason that they're going to struggle when your product seems very similar and even when it's priced very similarly. In fact, there have been studies done that have shown that when two similar items are at the same price, it makes it even more confusing for a customer. See, a customer is always looking for a story. They're always looking for a reason, some sort of story to justify why they bought this over that. Now, that oftentimes can be the price, but here's what's interesting about it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the lower price wins, because oftentimes when we're shopping for something that's important to us, then what we see is that lower price, sometimes in our mind, it translates into lower quality. The key here is not whether you're higher or lower. The key is whether you are different. So we are always looking for points of differentiation. Now, that very well might be in the price, but if your price is going to be the same as somebody else's, then you have to be able to point out what specifically makes yours different. And it's not just a simple matter of saying, well, what's your unique value proposition? It's really a matter of making sure that the customer can tell that story, that they can look at it and say, I chose this over this because of that. So you want to reverse engineer this. You want to be thinking about what makes this different in your customer's eyes. Oftentimes we say, well, what's our unique value proposition? Well, it's quality. Well, listen, that doesn't work if your competitor is also saying that they provide a great quality. You've got to be able to back it up. You have to come up with specifics. But you're doing your customer a tremendous favor when you do. You're giving that customer a very specific reason to tell a very specific story. I bought here versus there because of this. So start thinking from your customer's perspective. Now, if you're not sure about this, one of the things that you could do is go back and talk to your previous customers that you have a great relationship with and just say, if there is one reason above everything else that caused you to buy here versus anywhere else, well, what was that? Why did you buy from us versus any other choice that you have? And as you start compiling these stories, now the story becomes much more credible to your current buyer because it came as a testimony to a different buyer. So I want you to think about that, about what makes you unique from your customer's eyes. Be clear on this. If your product looks exactly the same and it's the same price, you know what your customer's going to do? They're not going to buy either. It will so confuse the mind that they'll just pull out altogether. So you've got to have that separation from your competitor by what makes your product better, what makes it a better value overall, and hopefully you can prove both. Hopefully that helps you make it easy for your customer to buy. That's what we do in sales. We make it easy for our customer to buy. That's how we get to change their world.